right at that moment, I knew I was not going to work for anybody else. Never going to work for anybody else.
You're just extremely coachable, right? And you're always learning. Do you know where that came from?
I just kept clicking on the computer and I found your webinar.
You know, we sign up over 100 people for the course every single month, right?
I don't want to be left behind.
You know, phones are amazing, Zoom's amazing. We have so many tools, but you just came out of the gate and started writing business. And
yep.
So can you talk about that, how you got started?
I know now there's a reason God didn't let me finish that.
You talk about adversity, right? That you've gone through a lot of adversity in your life. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Basically done anything Bianca told me to do.
Welcome to my show of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, where we hear from regular people who got tired of living their ordinary lives and were not afraid to make that jump.
You gotta be different. You can't be doing what everyone else is doing. You gotta create action. You gotta create momentum. So I'm looking for demand and I'm looking for mentorship because I wanted to know everything my mentor knew.
People who are just like you and me. Hello, I'm David Price. Here's another episode of Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. I got Miss Amy Bush here, all the way from West Virginia. We're filming today in Orlando, Florida. Super excited to have Amy on here. Amy's absolutely killing it. Another new agent, really taking advantage of this opportunity. So Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David.
So first off, I heard it was your first time flying. How was that?
Oh, that was amazing. Yes, never been in the sky before. So definitely took a lot of pictures and watched out the window the whole trip. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So proud of you. You've just been doing amazing things, and you know you're definitely taking advantage of this opportunity. But let's dig into a little bit of who Amy is, and maybe talk about what you did before insurance.
Sure.
We could go back as far as you want and share a little bit about yourself, so we could get to know you.
Okay. Yeah. So I've done a little bit of everything my whole life, right? And I've always been good at anything I set my mind to. I have worked in the medical field, dental. I was a surgical assistant at one point. David, I even worked in a sawmill. And I definitely could outwork the guys, But yeah, I've just always, found a way to make money and support myself. And whenever COVID hit, I lost my job. And long story short, in a nutshell, without placing blame on anyone, I wasn't able to get unemployment. The company was a family-owned company, so I was really upset about that, the kind of way they done me. So right at that moment, I knew I was not going to work for anybody else. Never going to work for anybody else. My parents, they're entrepreneurs. They've always had their own business. I've just always kind of been business-minded. So right then and there, I went and got my business license, and I actually it was called Need Not Apply, and it was spelled with K's, and the need and the not. So basically, my grandma had always taught me how to make bread, so I was selling like bread and baked goods, and we have pepperoni rolls in West Virginia, so that's what we're famous for. So I was doing the baked goods and doing crafts and things at the flea markets and festivals, and I was making ends meet that way. And so then winter came, right? And I'm like, well, I can't really, where I'm from, we have a lot of snow. So I can't really sit at the flea market in the winter. So I started cleaning houses, Airbnbs, down, helping my neighbors and things out. And just got really tired, right? And I knew like I was worth more than what I was doing. And I basically just prayed one day. I said, Lord, I laugh now because I said, Lord, I'll do almost anything. And within 2 weeks, I actually, I am a single mom. I have 2 little boys, and we all had COVID. I was locked up in the house, and I was on the computer, and I said, there has to be something out there I can do from home, right? And I just kept searching and clicking, and stumbled upon insurance. And I was like, insurance? I mean, I always knew the State Farm office was down the street, but you don't have to have like a real big education for that, So I just kept doing my research, and I do tell everybody, I started studying before I started studying. I'm a researcher. I like to make sure, I know what I'm doing. So, I looked into health and casualty. I mean, I looked into everything, all the ins and outs, and discovered, life insurance. And I was like, wow, that's simple. I am a simple person. I like to, not have to know every, all the different things about, health or anyway. And just started watching YouTube videos. I interviewed with a couple companies. Everything just kind of fell through. Nothing really seemed like it was going to work. Some people even told me my internet connection wasn't even enough. And just, I just thought, well, I just kept clicking on the computer, and I found your webinar. And you said, are you getting paid what you're worth? And I'll never forget that. I just like, sign me up. Where do I sign? A lot of people maybe would have been like skeptical or just thought, well, who is this person? But like, I just saw it in your face. Like you were legit, and you knew what you were talking about. So from that point on, I just signed up for the course. I just started studying. It took me about 15 days.
To finish the course? To finish
the course, yeah. There again, I was at home with my 2 little ones, so I've been able to do all this, with them around me. Like I was telling you earlier, at the end of the course, there is 2 guaranteed tests. And if you pass those 2 tests and then you go to the regular test and fail it, they'll give you your money back, right? Well, I failed the first 2 practice tests, the guaranteed tests. Barely, and I was like, this, Amy, it's just the way you're reading the questions. You really just gotta just slow down and read the question. You can do this. So I had my test scheduled, and like I was telling you, I've always went up against adversity. There's always been something. I'm always pushing. A lot of people would have just laid down and quit. So I even went into my test, I had to run across like campus because I was in the wrong building, So I get into my test and my heart was pounding. And I had to just take some deep breaths. But anyway, I walked out, I passed it with flying colors. And then immediately went to work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if you know, but we sign up over 100 people for the course every single month, right? So we sign a lot of people up, but it's amazing how many people don't finish or how many people take months to finish. So you finish it in 15 days, right? That's already was a good sign. And, when you see an opportunity, you just sign right up for the course, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been doing some research on different things. I knew I wanted to do life. I wanted to do one thing and be passionate about that because I am very passionate about anything I do. So, I just didn't want to be bouncing around from here and there and, learning this carrier and all this different things. I wanted one thing, and especially with the legacy, like that really stood out to me. Like, wow, that's just a whole nother aspect of the process.
Awesome. So you love the simplicity. So, okay. So you took the test and it's awesome that you failed the practice test and then just said, hey, I'm just going to take the real test. Again, that it shows your personality, that you're not scared to make mistakes. Like, I'm going to take the test and if I fail, I'll just take it again. Right. Yeah. And so many people get caught up in that little part, right? It's like, I didn't pass the practice test. Let me just keep doing this, or they quit or they get discouraged. And I've dealt with that so many times, and it's like they're cheating themselves out of an amazing opportunity. Imagine if you never passed the practice tests and you're just like, oh, well, I guess this isn't for me. Yeah. What would your life look like right now?
Yeah, or even passed them and kind of got lazy and went and took the test and failed it, So I've always had stuff to drive me. I've been through a lot in life. And so, yeah, I just keep going.
Awesome. So you got your license now. And like, I remember, right? Because it was just like, oh, I hired somebody in West Virginia. I didn't have any agents at the time in West Virginia. And, a lot of times people think they need a lot of local support, right? You know, phones are amazing. Zoom's amazing. We have so many tools, but you just came out of the gate and started writing business. And so can you talk about that, how you got started?
Well, number one thing is be coachable. right? And I've even heard you say it. I came into it acting like I knew nothing, which I didn't. I didn't know anything. But I'd already seen you guys, on the Zooms and, was already been, studying and everything. And I was just coachable. Basically done anything Bianca told me to do. Just every day, stay plugged in every single day. I just, you're talking about the local sport, like some people probably thought I was a little crazy, like, wow, what do you, like, okay, here goes another one of her ideas. But yeah, like I said, I just hit the ground running and I just took to the phones. I love talking to people, love connecting with people, hearing people's stories, sharing my story with others. And like a lot of people think I am from Louisiana, and it's like, no, everything I know, I've learned from Zoom and phone calls, YouTube, everything.
You're doing amazing. So you started off, your first sale was over the phone,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you started telesales. And a lot of people think that telesales is harder, but I know you started with telesales. I know you dabbled with field sales a little bit. But I think I just heard you're basically a telesales agent now, right? Yeah. So you could talk about that?
Well, so I went out in the field some. Well, so yeah, I started on the phone. And, I just knew that I could probably be a little more profitable in the field, just doing neighbor knocking and stuff like that. So we did, a drop for leads in my area. And I went out in the field and I killed it. I did really good. There again, just seeing people face to face and everything.
They could see you're a real person.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but for me, especially, the demographics, like, where we're at, mountains and a lot of driving and, it's been a lot of wear and tear in my car, gas, the kids, I couldn't really go too terribly far away from home, especially during the day. So yeah, I just knew it wasn't really feasible, or wasn't sustainable, for long term. And I did it too for the experience. There again, I like to, when I do stuff, I do it to the max. I like to know the ins and outs of it all. So that way I knew I could train others if they needed help in the future. But after my leads in the field had kind of depleted, I just went back to the phones. Yeah, but that experience being in person really helped me over the phone.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
It's so good that you look at that as a learning experience. People, they're so they want to see the results right away, right? It's like, oh, I went out in the field for a week and, wasn't that great or that, where you're just like, cool, well, now I have more tools. Yep. I can teach people more things. I know stuff. So you're just extremely coachable, right? And you're always learning. Do you know where that came from?
I mean, probably my parents. They were always trying to teach me stuff, even though I didn't want to learn. And just being, I don't know, just driven, I guess. I don't want to be left behind.
That's awesome. And then you said your parents are both entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
So you grew up in the entrepreneur household.
Yep. And I tell her a lot of times, she would call and well, she was always on the phone, of course. I mean, she was my dad's secretary. So hearing her my whole life, really, I realized, recently, maybe that's where I get a lot of being able to talk over the phone. I mean, she can tell you what a person's like in a heartbeat, she can hang right up and tell you exactly, she can just read people over the phone. And it's pretty cool because I can too now, I could.
That's awesome. They must be so proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know you talked about your first business was a bakery,
yes,
right? Yes.
So, like I said, I named it Need Not Apply because I wasn't going to apply anywhere else. Told you I wasn't going to work for no one else. No one needed to apply with my business because I was a one-man show, But that was the thing, David, was I kept thinking, I'm going to open a brick and mortar bakery, right? And I was cleaning thinking, wow, that's a lot of work, to do that. I mean, thinking about all the dough you'd have to get up every morning and make. I mean, I was just going through the process in my head over and over again. And I knew something was out there for me. I knew I knew something bigger was there.
It's amazing because, I've said it before, but I always think that businesses are created equal, right? But, obviously a bakery and the financial industry, is not equal, right? It's a lot easier to make a living in the financial industry. Now, if you're just really passionate about baking stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. But
which I am, and that's the really cool thing about insurance now is I can build my business and then I can bake for fun. I bake for church or, which I still have people call me for my pepperoni rolls. And I'm sad to turn them down, but yeah, they are. I really will have to make a batch one day.
Awesome. So you know, you got to start with us. You learned on the phone. I know you have some great weeks, great months. You talk about adversity, right? That you've gone through a lot of adversity in your life, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, I would say I've never really fit in. You know, I've always just kind of, what does he say? Dance to the beat of your own drum. You know, you know, I mean, I've been a part of things in life, but I do enjoy just being alone and doing my own thing sometimes. And I was kind of, you know, like dropped on my face as a single mom, you know, and I had to really learn how to dig myself out of that, you know. I almost was a registered nurse, actually, at one point. I know now there's a reason God didn't let me finish that. You know, and I beat myself up for that for many years over that. Just missed too many days of school because life happens, you know. But I was an A and B student. You know, I've always been great at everything. So there again, I just always just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Anytime I met a challenge, it wasn't easy, but I kept going.
That's all. It sounds like you're really competitive. Is that why you push? Because you want to win?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just to, I wouldn't say prove people wrong, but, you know, my mom's always been like, look, Amy, you're just going to have to suck it up and keep going, you know? I'm like, okay, all right. I don't want to, but I will, you know.
So.
No other options. There's a good answer.
No other options?
Yeah.
I love it. So, you know, now you've been with us, I think 8 months, about 7, 8 months?
Yeah, well, yeah, about 6, 7 months, yeah.
6, 7 months. So how would you say your life's different now versus before you got your insurance license?
Well, I definitely have a lot more freedom, right? I'm able to get the kids off the bus, which was always one of my biggest things was I don't have a lot of help, you know? I mean, I do have my mom, but other than that. So it really opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I mean, look, I just took my first plane ride. I'm in Orlando, Florida with you. I mean, it's amazing where it's taken me. Yeah. And then I also do want to add, you know, my son actually was really sick this summer. He was in the hospital, you know, thank God he's good now, but I didn't lose my job, David. I was in the hospital with him for days. If I would have had a regular job, I would have lost it. Yeah. So, and the thought of my business is what got me through that really hard time. Yeah. That's
awesome. Like I said, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
What are some goals? What are we going to be seeing in the future?
Well, we're definitely building the Bush Group.
Awesome.
Yes, we're definitely. I've got a couple agents under me. I enjoy leading them too, you know, and I'm just going to keep pushing forward and just keep trying to beat my goal every week. I have my best weeks tacked onto my wall, and I just keep trying to push forward to that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you're hiring nationally, I believe?
Yeah.
Right. So what would be the best way to find you if someone wanted to join Amy's team? She's hiring nationally. She teaches you how to sell on the phone or in the field, but she does specialize on the phone. What's the best way to contact you?
So you can look me up on Facebook, Amy Bush. You have a nice picture of, you know, with my TPG shirt on. And yeah, they can message me, and I'll be glad to help anybody as long as they're willing to work.
As long as they're willing to work. That's the one thing you are. You're definitely willing to work.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Get the job done.
Well, I'm really happy that you came on. Thank you so much for flying out here from West Virginia.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's amazing. I finally get to meet you. You know, it's always good when you find an agent that takes advantage of the opportunity, and when they do, you definitely want to help feed that fire. So you fit that mold. So super pumped.
I went back and looked the other day. I mean, I've issued right at 60,000 in 6 months.
60,000 in 6 months with your son
with my son
being in the hospital, just still learning, still finding your way. So that's pretty impressive. So great job.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
So that's another episode of Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things with David Price. Please hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button if you like what you see. Put some stuff in the comments. Let us know what else you want to see so we can make it for you. Thank you. Have a great day.